I'm 77 years old, and this morning I had to take 3 breaks while making toast. 3 breaks. 4 toast. I stood at the counter after getting the bread out of the cabinet, needing to rest. Sat down after putting the slices in the toaster, breathing hard. Leaned against the wall, waiting for them to pop up, dizzy and exhausted. And when that toast finally appeared, I was so tired from the process of making it that I could barely eat it. I sat there at my kitchen table looking at those 2 simple pieces of bread and thinking, if making toast requires 3 rest breaks, what does that say about my ability to live alone? The breaks started months ago, maybe 6 or 7. At first, they made sense. I'd take a break while doing something genuinely tiring, carrying groceries in from the car, vacuuming the living room, cleaning the bathroom. Tasks that would tire anyone. Reasonable to rest. Smart to pace yourself. Nothing wrong with that. But then the breaks started coming during smaller tasks. Doing the dishes meant sitting down halfway through. Making the bed required stopping to catch my breath. Getting dressed meant resting between putting on pants and putting on a shirt. Activities that shouldn't require breaks at all were leaving me so exhausted I had to stop and recover. I live alone. I've lived alone for 12 years since my wife passed. And living alone after 75 means there's no one there to notice that you're taking breaks during activities that shouldn't require them. No one to see you sitting down every few minutes. No one to question whether this is normal or whether something's seriously wrong. You're on your own with your increasing limitations, and it's very easy to normalize things that aren't normal at all. Have you started doing this? Taking breaks during simple tasks. Telling yourself it's just good pacing when really it's your body failing. The breaks got longer. At first I'd rest for a minute or 2, then 5 minutes, then 10. Sometimes I'd sit down to take a break during a task and 20 minutes would pass before I had the energy to continue, and often I wouldn't continue at all. We'd just abandon the task unfinished because resuming it felt impossible. So my house filled with half-done chores, dishes half-washed, bed half-made, laundry half-folded, evidence everywhere that I was starting things I couldn't complete. When was the last time you finished a task without stopping to rest? When did simple activities stop being simple? Showering became an all-morning affair. I'd have to rest before getting in, rest after washing my hair, rest again after washing my body, rest after drying off. Getting clean, which used to take 15 minutes, now took 2 hours when you counted all the breaks I needed. And some mornings I'd start the process and give up halfway through because I just didn't have enough energy for all those steps, all those breaks, all that exhaustion. I started planning my day around breaks. Not around activities, but around recovery time. If I needed to make breakfast, that required breaks, before, during, and after. So that was morning gone. If I needed to get dressed, more breaks. That was early afternoon. By the time I'd accomplished 2 or 3 basic tasks, with all their required rest periods, the day was over. I'd lived an entire day and accomplished almost nothing. Do you find your days disappearing into an endless cycle of tiny tasks and long breaks? Accomplishing less and less because everything requires so much recovery time? My daughter came to visit and watched me throughout the day. Watched me take a break after walking from the living room to the kitchen. Watched me sit down to rest while making lunch. Watched me need to recover after carrying a cup of tea to the table. And I could see the concern growing on her face. Could see her counting the breaks, calculating what they meant, understanding that her mother was functioning at a level that wasn't sustainable. She asked if I was feeling sick, and I said no. Because I wasn't sick, not in any specific way I could name. Just exhausted all the time. Just unable to do things without stopping to rest. Just living in a body that required constant breaks because it couldn't sustain even minimal activity anymore. And that's not sick, exactly. That's just failing. That night she asked the hard question. She asked if I thought I could still safely live alone when I needed breaks to make toast. When simple tasks were taking hours because of all the rest I needed. When my daily functioning had deteriorated to this level, and I got defensive. Said I was managing. Said I was fine. Said she didn't need to worry. But we both knew I was lying. Because I wasn't managing. I was barely surviving. My house was a mess because cleaning required too many breaks to be worth attempting. I wasn't eating properly because cooking involved too many steps and too much standing. I wasn't bathing regularly because the process was too exhausting. I was living in conditions that weren't acceptable, doing the bare minimum to survive, taking endless breaks just to accomplish basic tasks. The truth I couldn't face was that elderly living alone requires a baseline level of stamina. You need to be able to cook without taking 3 breaks. You need to be able to shower without resting 6 times. You need to be able to move through your day, accomplishing necessary tasks without spending more time resting than working. And I'd fallen below that baseline. Had crossed from independent to barely functional. From living alone to slowly failing alone. My son came over a few days later. My daughter had called him. They'd talked. They were worried. He watched me for an hour, counted the breaks I took doing nothing much at all, and said what my daughter had been too kind to say directly. He said, "Mum, this isn't normal. This isn't just aging. Something's wrong, and you need help." And he was right. We went to doctors, ran tests, found some things, heart issues, blood problems, things that explained the exhaustion, the need for constant breaks, the total lack of stamina, some of it treatable, some of it not, some of it would improve with medication, and some of it was just my body wearing out in ways that couldn't be fixed. But the bigger issue was what this meant for living alone. Even with treatment, even with the treatable things addressed, I wasn't going to get back to normal. Wasn't going to stop needing breaks. Might improve somewhat, but would always be someone who needed to rest during simple tasks. And the question was whether that level of functioning was compatible with independent living. We talked about options. About home health aides who could help with the tasks I couldn't complete. About moving somewhere with more support. About that nursing home fear I'd been carrying, wondering if this was how it became reality. About aging and independence, and how sometimes they diverge so far that you can't maintain both. I resisted at first, said I could manage with a little help, said I didn't need full-time care, said I could stay in my house if we just made some adjustments. And we did try adjustments. An aide coming daily, prepared meals delivered, systems to make everything easier. But even with help, I was taking endless breaks. Even with support, I was barely functioning. Even with accommodations, I was exhausted by existence. It's been 2 months now. I'm still in my house, but barely. We're looking at assisted living options. Places where I can have my own space, but with support built in. Where needing breaks during simple tasks doesn't mean being isolated and struggling. Where aging with diminishing stamina doesn't equal living in dangerous conditions alone. I'm learning that when you start needing breaks during simple tasks, that's not just fatigue. That's your body telling you something fundamental has changed. That the level of functioning required for independent living and the level you're capable of have separated. That continuing to live alone when everything exhausts you isn't independence, it's stubbornness. Dangerous stubbornness. I'm learning that losing independence looks like this. Not dramatic crisis, but endless breaks. Not sudden inability, but gradual exhaustion. Not one big failure, but 1,000 small ones, each requiring rest, each taking longer, each making it clearer that you can't sustain this alone. If you're taking breaks during simple tasks, if everything exhausts you, if your day is just an endless cycle of tiny activities and long rests, please hear what I'm saying. This is serious. This is your body failing in ways that make living alone dangerous. This needs to be addressed before you hurt yourself or deteriorate further. There's still time to get help. There's still time to find out what's wrong and whether it's treatable. There's still time to make changes while you can participate in choosing them. But there's not unlimited time. And waiting until you're completely bedridden, until you can't function at all, that's when others make all decisions for you. So please, count your breaks. Look at how often you're resting. Be honest about whether this is normal or whether it's crisis. Because recognizing the difference is how you maintain control, how you build appropriate support, how you protect yourself. If this resonated with you, please subscribe to this channel. Share it with someone who's taking too many breaks. Comment about your experience, because you're not alone. Hit the like button if this felt real. We need to talk about stamina loss. We need to get help before we can't ask. That's something I'm learning, one exhausting break at a time.